This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half.
Well, hello, Deborah Johnson here today. Always good to be back with you. And I love producing these episodes and these shows. They are so much fun for me. And I hope you are gaining something from listening in or watching the video or reading the articles. With every single episode, I put out an article with like extra links and sources, free downloads. So make sure you take advantage of those as well. Today, why write a book and what it really takes. So we're going to focus on the why here first, because that's a question that many ask. As this episode airs, this will be the time when our pre-orders are starting to be available for my new book, The Summit. So you'll want to take advantage of that. And if you see if you look at the video, you'll be able to see a picture of the book and also a QR code. But I've also put this on the article so that comes with this. So you will be able to take advantage of with any pre-orders. I usually provide some freebies, and always with the audiobook, there's some little extras there as well, but it will be in all versions, the ebook, the print, of course, and also audio. So I hope that you take advantage of that. And it's a really fun one. The Summit, which is an allegory, it's a story and has some principles throughout. And so hopefully that you will, it's a lot of fun, but also there's a wonderful little message behind it. So let's start tackling this subject. Why write a book? Well, why write a book? It's a question that many speakers, coaches, and even trainers ask. Does writing a book really make a difference? And hasn't everything already been said? And with the amount of work it takes, is it really worth it? And also, what should you write about? Well, there are no cut and dry answers to any of these questions. And so, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some of the same questions to songwriting, as I think it may help to focus on the value of creating new work. And that's what this is about. And will a new song, that's a good question, will a new song make a difference? Well, yes, it can, because we hear different songs most every day that touch us in new and different ways. And the effort it takes to craft and produce the song, it brings value to both the songwriter and also to the listening audience. And the fact that life is ever changing and evolving, well, there's always some new experience or some new way to say something, to approach a topic that may be an old topic, or to approach a subject that will reach a whole new audience. So that's the reason with a song, and the same thing will apply to books. The fact is, most everything's already been said or written already, even songs, the progressions of songs. But of course, and except for new technology, because there's always a little different way to express the principles to a growing worldwide audience. But technology, it's now moving exponentially, if I can say that correct, exponentially, which is multiplication factor, which creates new and innovative subjects to communicate about. And formats, including those audiobooks, video books, and even virtual reality, those are all now feasible. And if you're seriously considering the why write a book question, well, the principles we cover here, they may help you determine how it can benefit you and your business. And we'll also briefly cover what it takes to really complete a book, because it's not just the fact that you're going to write one, but actually to finish it all the way. That's another whole thing in itself, because it's quite a process to complete it all the way. So let's kind of dive into this, why write a book. And I have, if you're looking at the video, you'll be able to see me hold up the books, the 4 that I have written, and you'll be able to see then on, have one more here. It's 4 though. Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I started down the road to expand my field into speaking, I started writing books. And it has given me, it's solidified my message, but we're going to cover that in how a book can help you. But it's helped me solidify my message as well. So you will see on the graphic, or on with the video, you will see the picture of the new book that I have coming out. But it will also give you the picture of what it takes here. So let's kind of dive right into it, of what it really does take and why. The question why first, because I will get to what it takes. So the why write a book, number 1, it helps you gain credibility. And again, that's why I held up my books here, is because it does help you gain an audience and credibility. And it depends on the type of book that you create. But writing a book sets you up as an authority or an expert in your field. But it does take work, that 4-letter word, work, and research. And depending on your emphasis and focus, taking the time to gather what may not be commonly known or understood, it opens the opportunity to communicate in a way that sets you apart from your competitors. And just like that song, you can say it in that little different way, a little different style. So today, most anyone can hang an expert sign on their door. We've seen a lot of them, right? Especially with boosted profiles on social media. We see it every day. Everything's color coordinated, but that will only get you so far. A true thought leader provides additional research and opinion to either add to what has been said before, or to say it in a different way. And I believe thought leaders will be the future experts that will stand out from the crowd. And this is already true in many circles. And it's kind of interesting, because I wrote about this a little bit in the summit, the book coming up, in a section I call the social media circus. And you'll have to read the book to find out all of the details on that. But it really talks about setting yourself apart, and how the facade, we get kind of hung up on that facade of things that we think are real, but aren't really real. And thought leaders, they do their research, they write and they speak. They're not afraid to share their opinions and new ideas. And they will take risks, though calculated risks, but they will take those to present and bring new thoughts and communication to their audiences. It takes thought and being able to put those down on paper. So when they do put those thoughts into a white paper or a book, then they do establish their authority and leadership in a particular field. They may be known with a certain opinion or a certain field of research. And thus, a book helps you gain credibility. And even in a book like I just wrote called The Summit, which is an allegory, which is fiction. It's not nonfiction. There's principles in it, but it's fiction. But it still has quite a bit of research behind what I wrote. So, and when you read other fiction books, you find like, oh, there's so many similarities. How did they know this? I mean, we can, as we read some of these sci-fi books, and you're thinking, wow, they kind of predicted what was going to happen. Well, they did some research. I can guarantee that there was some research done so they could even write a fictional book. So in any type of book, fiction or nonfiction, there's a certain amount of research involved. So establishing you as an authority, but number two, it will solidify your message. And this is very true. I've experienced this. That process of writing a book, it hones your message down to these little consumable bites, but that takes a lot of work. And explaining your thoughts for a book, it doesn't just take dictating a speech for transcription. Anybody who's written, you know this extremely well. It involves creating an outline and a flow that's easy to read and ingest. I want to focus on easy. That's the key. Our world is busy, and there are so many that don't read. In fact, I was really surprised to hear one of our son's friends say that she'd never really read a book, a physical book, all the way through. Now, I don't know if that was ever in a long time. Well, it's hard to understand how anyone can get through school without reading, but that's the downfall of our educational system. But that's a subject for another episode. Well, this fact will always be a puzzle, though, to me, because I love to read. And it will probably be a puzzle to most of my baby boomer generation. However, we need to work around this to reach a wider audience. And it's why there are so many different ways that you can produce a book. So a book can come in all these different forms, but there will always be a market for print. I really believe that. Just as receiving anything by snail mail, especially if it's fun, in your physical mailbox, it's still really fun, especially if it's not junk mail. But I love sending cards and postcards, and they're usually very well received. In fact, people are surprised getting them. So the market now, I mean, there's always a market for that, for the print, but the market also for audiobooks is growing and in popularity. In 2020, the market size was 3.3 billion US dollars. 2027, the forecast is 15 billion, and that's a 24.4% growth in audiobooks. And it should encourage every single author not to only write, but record their book. And a good research for DIYers, do-it-yourselfers who are interested in recording an audiobook is the Audiobook Creation Exchange, or acx.com. And I've got that link in the article. I've used that, actually. It works very well. So number 3, let's get to another principle here. A book can impact a wide audience. Now, most distribution channels will make your book available worldwide when it's released, especially if it's in multiple versions. And this means that if your blog or your podcast, you've got those going, but now if you put this in a book as well, you will have increased avenues of impact. And that's very important for many, especially at mid-career or halftime of life. In 2020, the global ebook market size was $16,000 US dollars, or no, actually $1 million, 16 million. And it's projected the market size will increase by 15.7% during that time of 2021 to 2026 to 38.5 million. And the trend's not eased partially to the growth of digital education and immersing learning systems, but it's also been aided by this environmental protection, those campaigns by governments around the globe to save trees and reduce the use of paper. The ebooks are also extremely portable for travel and accessibility. Personally, my husband and I, we both just love books, and we own a lot of them. It's hard to get rid of them. However, when simplifying and eventually downsizing, we will gradually repurpose many of them, which really won't be easy. But fortunately, our local library, they still accept donations. But the process of opening the cover of a physical book, I still get so much joy of discovery when I'm able to do that. So there's just so much to having an actual physical book. And I think that sort of principle will always be, or that sort of format will always be needed in some way. So again, a physical book can help you with gaining credibility. And number two, it will solidify your message. And number 3, it can impact really a wider audience. And then we can get, now as we go around to our number 4, we're going to talk about the basics of actually writing a book. And I want to just give a disclaimer here that I am not a book coach. It's not what I do. I don't help you write your book. I have just been through this process, so I'm going to give you some of the information of what to look for. And if you ever need a source or referrals, you can always contact me. But there are so many now avenues online that you can get, and so many coaches and all of that. And I'll cover that in a moment. But I'm going to start talking about what it really takes in the process of this, of actually writing that book. And the basics, really the basics. I'm going to focus on what the basics of what it takes to write a book. And again, there are complete books written on this, so you can read up if you're interested, and a multitude of coaching programs available. I always like to work on referral. That's the best way, but I'll cover a few basics. Now, before you even start writing any text, anything, write down your main idea. And it sounds logical, but you need to get specific. It's harder than you think. If you have one main principle or a thought that you want your leaders or your readers and readers to leave with, what would it be? Kind of starting with that end in mind. And it might be your hardest step because it's much easier to be very, very general for a wide audience. However, spending time to state your main idea very, very clearly and succinctly for a specific audience, it will help you with the consistency of your complete outline and actually style of your writing. It's amazing how it works. So after you do that, you got your main idea. And then you want to create a rough draft, like an outline of your chapters and your subjects. Again, not always easy, but they should all support your main idea, that main idea that you want your audience to lead with. There's no harm in expanding your ideas for each of the outlined areas. So don't be afraid that you're going to be inhibiting yourself. Now, at this point, you may consider hiring a developmental editor. Some editors like to be involved in the complete process, and they will walk you through all of this, every single step, with their own step-by-step program. Very valuable. A developmental editor can be helpful for both fiction and nonfiction writers, and they'll help you improve your big picture story elements. I worked with a developmental editor on this last project. Now, there's a different type of editor. In fact, some editors do both. A line editor or a copy editor, they will help you solidify the technical aspects of your manuscript, which is important. Most every magazine article, news article, or even advertisement, they have a copy editor on board. Hiring any type of editor will require rewriting, and that's up to you. Now, depending on the shape of your manuscript, a copy editor, they may make many of the tweaks for you, which is very well worth the investment. But thinking through some of this may just make some of you want to hire a ghostwriter. But I really encourage you to get the help you need and write in your voice. Now, many ghostwriters can also help write in your voice. So there are many, you'll pay for that, but they can do that for you. So as we talked about this process, I want to focus again on how important it is to go through the process of getting the right sort of editor. It is very, very worth having an editor. Don't put that process off. I always know that I need an editor. It is not my first core competency is to write books. I struggle through some of the way to say things, to say it different. Actually, I write too much almost. And this is an issue with many writers. They write these big, long paragraphs, but you need to be able to cut it down. I had to do the same thing in musicals. And it's not easy. It's not easy to have to, get rid of some of those words or those paragraphs or some of those repetitions. And I've been told before, you don't have to beat your audience over the head with this same principle. They got it. So there it is. But those editors are the ones that help you through a lot of this. They help you to be able to cut. They help you through the emotional process of all of this, of getting through the book. So last I want to leave you with is don't rush the process. Now, I'm all about goals and deadlines. I love those. It helps me get so many projects done. But I've also learned how important a reasonable timeline is. And it's easy to rush projects when you just want to be done. Oh, I've been so guilty of this in the past. I really have. But give yourself enough time and space to enjoy the process. Writing a book, it's so tremendously rewarding, especially as people start reading your words and they apply the principles. It's like, wow, they're actually following through. And my most recent book, The Summit, as I've been telling you about here, it was extremely fun to write, but it wasn't easy. Developing the characters in a fictional book was most like developing the characters, for me, in writing a musical. Similarly, the process of cutting the sections that weren't needed, now that was also similar in producing my original musicals. It was extremely difficult, not only cutting words, but cutting songs. There are many different types of books. And so you may want to focus on something like maybe even your family's ancestry. So you can see the interview I did with Wayne Haston on this, discovering his family history. Fascinating. And he's writing a book. Actually, he's writing like a whole, I think, a historical volume about this because he has quite a bit of family history. So gather that information and then you start your writing. It's so much fun and it's so very, very rewarding. So I hope this encourages you and you've gained a little bit of information about why. Maybe you're able to ask yourself some of those questions, which of course it includes some of the reasons for doing this, which it can help you gain that credibility. And number two, it can help you solidify your message. You can impact even a wider worldwide audience in a number of different formats now, which is wonderful. And then we talked about the basics, especially to get your main idea and creating an outline. And as you do that, get the help you need. That is one of the biggest suggestions I can give you today, and get the right help that you need. Every editor is not right for you, of course. Just finding one, don't just look one up. Make sure you talk with them, talk through their process. A lot of times they have time to get to know them because they need to get to know you too and what your message is. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, you'll want to be, Greg and I are together, my husband, over 40 years now. I do admit it, readily admit that now. But we are talking, we're on together once a month on video as well, so that's a treat. We are talking about 5 things we did right raising kids. Now, there's always a lot of humor in this because we always start out like, did we do anything right? But we did. They are launched and doing well. It's not always without struggle, but they are adults and they are a welcome addition to society. And so we feel very fortunate in that fact. So we're going to cover those 5 things, but we're going to put some principles in there in how we went about those things. And some of those were like almost accidental. You look back and go, oh, that worked. Wow. So you'll want to join us. And always you can listen, subscribe, share this with your friends. The reason I do these, of course, is for you. I love the format, but it is for you and for you listeners. So I really appreciate you listening, sharing, even writing reviews, love those as well. So thank you again for joining me. It's always a pleasure, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.